Viewers, we're now learning that French President Emmanuel Macron will visit China next week to push for a new framework based on mutual interests. Now, according to reports, Macron wants Europe to be treated as an independent major partner, not just a factor in China's tensions with the US or Russia. In fact, during meetings with Xi Jinping in Beijing and Chengdu, Macron will call for a rebalancing of trade commitments on security and peace and deeper cooperation in areas like advanced chips, rare earths and innovation. A key challenge, of course, is China's stance on the war in Ukraine. France plans to stress that Beijing should avoid aiding Russia, arguing this aligns with China's stated goal of promoting a peaceful solution. On Taiwan as well, France has reaffirmed its one China policy while urging all sides to show restraint. Beijing, meanwhile, wants France to support it on issues it considers its core interests. Still with us on the broadcast is Dr. Satoru Nagao. We've seen something very interesting happen earlier, just a couple of weeks back. In fact, the Taiwanese vice president was leading a delegation to Brussels. It was welcomed in Europe. Interestingly, France was one of the countries that had shown vociferous support in that particular case. It did not go down well with the Chinese. We also know that the Europeans are trying to negotiate a free trade deal with China. Do you think Macron is keeping that deal in mind when he's going to visit Beijing?
Of course, he will visit China because of the benefits France can get, and in this case, we can imagine what kind of benefit it. Of course, the business-related benefit could be the number one because the military-related benefit is nearly impossible under the current U.S.-China competition. So that's why the promoting business is one of the main reasons, and especially the supply of the rare earths is the key card China has to negotiate with France or other countries. So 90% of the world supply of the rare earths came from China. So that's why China provides rare earths. This means that this country can produce something, the high-tech products. So that's why this is very important. But at the same time, in case of France want to be something the independent policy from the other Western countries. So not like UK, not like the US. So currently, US-China competition is escalating, and the US, UK, China and UK. In this case, of course, there are many trouble. In this case, there is a business chance. In the way of the thinking of the France, they find some business chance. US cannot get, UK cannot get, but France can get. Or something like that is the idea that France relatively find the France way of thinking is something like that. Always. But at the same time, France start to realize the risk, I believe, because if the US-China competition will be escalated, of course, even if France choose a different policy with the United States, but it will affect the business between France and China. So that's why currently they try to seek the business cooperation, but in the long run, it is impossible to do that, I think.
Indeed. And what's also interesting is France also is looking at sort of raising up the fact that China has been tacitly supporting Russia in its war. It's not done so militarily up until now, but we've seen reports of dual-use items, whether it's fiber optic cables, lithium-ion batteries that are then used to manufacture drones in Russia that are used in the war. This is something that France is likely to rake up as well. What sort of an impact is this likely to have? Is this going to sit well with the Chinese or not?
Of course, Russia rely on China, and this impact is very big. But at the same time, the France diplomatic style is try to negotiate, try to keep the negotiation style with potential enemy. For example, if Russia prepared, when we can remember what happened in 2022 when Russia planned to invade Ukraine. At that time, the President Macron visited Moscow, and very long table the Putin prepared, and Putin and Macron sit in the two sides of this long table. That has happened, you can remember. So every time France tried to negotiate with Russia, even even if the Russia is a potential enemy, in this case, if the Russia invade Ukraine that time. And so same things could apply to the France and China. So France and China relations, of course, there is a risk to escalate because France is a Western country, China is challenging against the West now. So that's why and China and ally of Russia now, not formal ally, but Russia rely on China. Without China, Russia cannot get dual-use equipment, or even if the military equipment they are getting from China recently, other parts. So that's why the relation between the France and China, there is a potential risk, of course, indirect battle, something like that has really happened. But France's diplomatic style is to try to visit China and negotiate with China. So that's why he is planning to visit. So this is diplomatic style and keeping the negotiation, and France seeks something one kind of new role, even if the US-China compete very hard and UK, China is not a good relations, something like that. Under such kind of situation, still France can keep the relation with China, could be the useful diplomatic channel. But that is France want to get, I think.
All right, sir. With that, I'd like to thank you for taking our time, of course, sharing your analysis with us on NewsX World today. On that note, viewers, we're shifting focus to further developments coming in. We're now learning that Europe's Airbus has ordered immediate repairs to 6,000 of its widely used A320 family of jets in a sweeping recall affecting more than half the global fleet, which is, of course, the backbone of Asian short-haul aviation, particularly in China and India. As a result, we're now learning that Japan's biggest airline, ANA, has stated that it has cancelled over 65 flights after the A320 recall forced it to ground some aircrafts. Meanwhile, South Korea's Korean Air has stated that work will be completed by Sunday morning on 10 Airbus aircrafts that require software updates. This appears, of course, to be amongst one of the largest recalls affecting Airbus in its 55-year history, and comes weeks after the A320 overtook the Boeing 737 as the most delivered model. At the time, the Airbus issued its bulletin to the plane's more than 350 operators and airlines. Some 3,000 A320 family jets were in the air. According to reports, the fix mainly involves reverting to earlier software and is relatively simple, but must be carried out before the planes can fly again, other than repositioning to repair centers. With us on the broadcast is Ms. Vandana Singh, aviation expert, joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Incidentally, we'd also seen similar statements come in from aircraft carriers within India as well, whether it's Indigo or Air India for that matter. I wanted to understand at the outset, how is this to impact the passenger traffic in the upcoming days when these checks are taking place?
Thank you, ma'am, for having me on your show. And firstly, I would like to say that yes, this is something which is mandatory. It cannot be avoided. As a civil aviation expert, I can already tell you that even though about 6,000 equipments are affected, of course, the passenger disruptions will happen, flight disruptions will happen, but it is mandatory that these software updates be done immediately, and in certain equipments, certain identified A320s, that the hardware, updates will also have to be done. There is no question of not following this mandate. The EASA mandate, the FAA mandate, as well as what the DGCA India has passing out, is absolutely supposed to be followed. There is going to be passenger, disruptions over here, but it is better to be safe than to be sorry. We do not want any catastrophic event to happen. We do know what happened with JetBlue, which triggered this. Just earlier last week, we know there was the volcanic ash from Ethiopia that was traveling from northern part of India over Gujarat, passing down then over towards China and carrying sulfur dioxide, carrying small glass particles. And now when we talk about solar radiation, It's extremely important because the aircrafts, ma'am, fly at the troposphere level, which is about 9 to 15 kilometers above, and 70 to 80% of the Earth's atmosphere is where the aircrafts are flying. Therefore, all the more important that no stone be left unturned when it comes to upgrading the software as well as hardware in certain equipments. This is essential. It's not just Korean Airways or JAL or certain Far East carriers or Indigo, Air India. We are talking about a global mandate. We are talking about all European carriers. We are talking about Lufthansa. We are talking about KLM. We are talking about American carriers. Everybody has to follow this. This is very essential for the safety and security because these solar disruptions can lead to an uncommanded, a miscommand, which can lead to a pitch down and can cause a catastrophe. And we do not want that kind of catastrophe to happen. We want human lives, we want lives to be safe first. So it's better to be late and change your travel plans rather than wonder as to why you're not reaching point A to point B at the scheduled time. Ma'am, over to you.
Absolutely. You did mention that it's very important considering the context that we've seen recently with these solar flares and the volcanic ash after the eruption in Ethiopia. But I also wanted to understand, with Airbus now taking proactive action, can we expect other manufacturers such as Boeing to also follow suit?
Absolutely. It goes without saying. The writing is on the wall. We know what happened with the 777 Dreamliner.
Yes.
And one theory is also running that that time the temperature was already at 42 degrees. It was very high. But of course, those causes are that report will be made open very soon by the AAIB. Having said that, Boeing definitely has to follow suit. Let's not forget, ma'am, that these are all fly-by-wire equipments. Let's not forget that the aircraft is actually a machine. The machine is controlled. The brain of the machine is the computer. The computer is carrying the electrical as well as the software in it. And any miscommand or any sort of glitch, software glitch, it can lead to a ripple effect or a series of effects, which can not just lead to a single event, as you mentioned, it can lead to multiple events, one after the other. So it is very important that this precaution has to be taken. This is mandatory. It has to be followed. And I'm glad that Airbus has ordered 6,000 equipments to be immediately upgraded with its software and hardware where it's required. And Boeing has to follow suit, and so do the others, ma'am.
Absolutely. One final question for the benefit of our viewers. In your assessment, what sort of logistical challenges do, in fact, manufacturers face when coordinating such mass software repairs?
It is immense. It is immense. They see. It also depends on their SOPs. Okay, whether it's Airbus, whether it's Boeing, whether it's any other equipment manufacturer. Or maybe, ma'am, you talk of any other industry also, okay? So the logistical impact is very high. If your SOP is in place, and you know that when something like this happens, that this is my standard operating procedure, this is my plan A, this is my plan B, this is my plan C, this is what the time it's going to take, and this is how I'm going to, you have emergency drills in our industry for such scenarios. And if these emergency drills are followed by big corporates like Airbus and Boeing, we should not have any, such long issues. But logistically, yes, it can be a nightmare if you're not prepared. In this case, I don't think it's going to be a nightmare because I believe Airbus as well as Boeing and others are well equipped. They have the drills, they have the SOPs in place, and they know how to go about it. Now the aircrafts have to follow suit. The airlines have to, follow the mandates, and they have to follow the necessary drills and their own SOPs. to have this in place. And I think it can be done within matter of hours, like you said, by next morning. Today is Saturday, day 6, by day 7, that is Sunday, this should be done. And in certain cases where hardware, fixes have to be done, this might take slightly more time, but logistically, I think they will have to manage it. Passengers, of course, are going to face inconvenience, and there is nothing that can be done about it because they have to understand life is more important than anything else.
Absolutely, ma'am. With that, I'd like to thank you for taking out time, of course. Uh,